What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is James from Cop Logic, and today we're still on the whole transfer thing, but we're talking about contract extensions today. Obviously, there's the three big ones that everyone's waiting to hear some news on, which is Virgil Van Dijk, Mohamed Salah, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, we have had a bit of a positive update on that, so that's what today's video is going to be about. And we'll start with the big one, because it's the one everyone wants to hear about. We're going to start with Mohamed Salah. Just before we jump into that, though, guys, if you can do me a massive favor, hit like on the video down below. It just helps us push this video out to more people. And if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date on everything going on with Liverpool Football Club throughout this summer transfer period. The window is about to open and things are going to kick off. Players to come in, players to move out, contracts to be extended. So there's a lot to do. And if you want to stay up to date with that, this is the place to be. Slap that subscribe button. Anyway, let's get on with it then. We'll start with Mohamed Salah. And if you don't know already, Mo Salah's presence on social media is an interesting one because he doesn't often put anything out, but when he does, it's always something massive. You know, he doesn't post things without thinking about it. You know, he's not like other players where he'll just rashly throw something out on social media. You can tell, that was a little bit of a pun there, rashly. You can tell he's thought about what he wants to say. You can tell it's always predetermined and calculated. And, you know, I'm talking about the likes of the Salah Stays posts, the times he's spoken about, you know, how things haven't been good enough. The end of last season, in fact, when he said things weren't good enough and we'll go again next season, we will improve. And he's put out a similar post. So we'll start with that because it links into Salah's potential staying at the club. Now, we have already spoke about Mohamed Salah a couple of weeks ago. There was a little bit of news, positive news, that he was looking to extend his contract at Liverpool. That video is already out there, so I won't go over that again, but if you do want to watch it, I will link it at the end of this video. But let's just quickly take a look at the tweet that Mo put out yesterday. So he said, "We know that trophies are what count, and we will do everything possible to make that happen next season. Our fans deserve it, and we will fight like hell." Now, obviously, the big thing there is that he's mentioned he wants trophies next season. So he's staying at Liverpool next season. I mean, essentially what that tweet was this.
I'm not leaving. I'm not fucking leaving!
So Mo's staying next season. He's going nowhere this summer. That's what we can take from that tweet. But it doesn't paint the whole picture, of course, because there's still his contract to think about. If Mo doesn't extend his contract and he stays next season, that means he leaves for free at the end of the season. Obviously, that's not ideal for Liverpool Football Club financially. Even if we want to move Salah on, it's better for us to sell him, especially when you consider how much he might be worth, especially to maybe one of the Saudi clubs, for example. So for us financially, I still think the contract extension is massively important. Obviously, it's great news that Mo Salah is staying. Whatever you might think of his form towards the end of the season, he's still our top scorer. His numbers have still been absolutely phenomenal. He's one of the greatest players I've ever seen play for Liverpool Football Club. You know, there's an argument that he's the greatest of all time to play for Liverpool Football Club, but the huge thing is he will be here next season. That's great news, but we still need that contract extension. And fortunately, we have had some positive news in that area surrounding not just Mo Salah, but also Virgil Van Dijk and Trent Alexander-Arnold. And this is coming from Chris Bascombe. He is a journalist from The Telegraph, specifically the Merseyside correspondent for Everton and Liverpool. And he's a top tier journalist. You know, he's one that generally you can take his word for things. And what he said is, contract talks with Virgil van Dijk, Mohamed Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold are a priority as the club are determined to retain a healthy balance between youth and experience. So I think what we can take from that is the first thing Michael Edwards will be doing is sitting down with the three players in question and sorting out these contracts. Obviously, with them being up for renewal, I think if any of those players didn't want to extend, now is probably the time to sell them, obviously, because we don't want them leaving for free the following year. You can see why they've put that as a priority, but it's nice to know that they want to keep them as well. I do think we need the likes of Virgil van Dijk and Mohamed Salah. That spine of the team, Alisson Becker, Virgil and Mo Salah, are so important and will be so important in the Arne Slot era to give him a chance. You know what I mean? Even if he's going to bring players in and move players on, having that core spine is going to be so important just to help him quickly settle into this team and also to help the other players around them. So it's nice to know they want to keep him. We already know Mo Salah is going to be here next season. So what does that mean for Virgil van Dijk? Well, Virgil van Dijk, interestingly, has spoken on his future at Liverpool Football Club as well. So let's take a look at what he had to say. So he said, "My future is not important at the moment. The only thing I can say now is if I have a farewell, I don't think I will keep it dry. as in try not to cry, because that was something I was very surprised with talking about Jurgen Klopp, the fact that Jurgen Klopp didn't cry. Now, this is obviously not as cut and dry as the Mo Salah statements, where you're damn sure after that Mo Salah statement that he's going to be here next season. This is kind of interesting because he's referencing his own farewell. Now, it's not like he's saying he's going to go, but it's kind of like he went on to mention that there've been no talks, nothing's been put on the table yet, and I think that's totally fine. We know from what Chris Bascombe said that Michael Edwards, who's only just come in, don't forget Julian Ward as well, and Richard Hughes, that's their priority right now. So I expect those documents to be on the table very, very soon, and we'll hear more about that very soon. But, you know, it's interesting that he's not committing himself to a future at Liverpool there. But I think it would be silly not to give the Arne Slot era a chance. So I do expect Virgil van Dijk to be here next season. The thing is, the same exact issue with Mo Salah is they have to get that extension if that's going to happen. We can't let these players leave on a free because financially it just doesn't work out with the club. In terms of Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think he's the least likely to leave just because he is Scouse. He's a local lad. He's playing at his boyhood club. It's got to be a dream come true. And, you know, I'm not naive enough to think that that means he'll never leave. I definitely think playing at Real Madrid, that's got to be a dream for him too. He's great friends with Jude Bellingham. I think if they came knocking, there would be, you know, he would have to sit down and think about that quite seriously. But equally with Virgil van Dijk, I think it would be silly not to give the Arne Slot era a go. I think Trent as well, being a local lad, he probably does want to get that opportunity to celebrate a Premier League win with the fans properly at Anfield. And so I do think he extends. He's the one I'm least worried about. I also think, you know, there's a potential future under Arne Slot where Trent can get what he has always wanted, and that is to be a midfielder. You know, he was a midfielder in the youth setup, and he's done an exceptional job as a right back, but we all know that's where he wants to be. He is a quarterback by nature, and I could see that happening. And if that does happen, then who knows how long he stays at the club, how happy he is with that role. So let's wait and see, but I'm less worried about Trent. Salah, we know, is staying next season, and I would hope they can get like a 2-year extension, and at least then, you know, you can sell him, and that's great for the financials of the club. Virgil, it's an interesting statement, so I'm less sure about Virgil, but if he's going to stay, I think he does extend, because I think Michael Edwards pushes for that, and we know how good Michael Edwards is dealing with these kind of things. So for me, this is a huge positive, because the main thing we can take away from this is that Michael Edwards definitely wants all 3 of these players to extend, and that's great for the club. As I said, they are and do belong to the spine of this football club, and it will be massive for Arne Slot to have these players available to him to work around and build a system around that. I'm expecting updates on this very soon, because there are players still that we'll be looking to bring in, players that we'll be looking to move on as well. So we need to know what's happening with these 3 in particular as soon as possible, so that they can then go and build the rest of the team around that. So these contract extensions are going to take priority. I think they will happen first before any movements, any real movements happens in the transfer window. So there's going to be updates on this very soon. If you want to stay up to date on all that stuff, make sure you subscribe to the channel, guys. And as I said at the start of the video, give this video a like if you could. It would massively help us out. And as always, stay locked down to the channel for all of this crazy summer transfer window, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.